everyone, welcome to my latest video, and this is the third and final part of what is in my drawers. And for today's episode I am going to show you the oddments that are around my room that are still tools of my trade and still things that I use but are just actually not in a drawer. So let's get on with it. Okay, so these are the three jars that I've got on the top of the unit, and they have tools that are easy to access. They're quick to hand for many different jobs. So we'll start with the fullest jar and work our way down. We've got a pair of scissors, two toothbrushes, and this might seem odd but they are handy for so many different jobs, for cleaning things, getting rid of pencil erasings, all sorts of jobs. There's a couple of glue brushes and they've got a thicker bristle, so they're good for just very rough glue jobs. I've got a thicker brush, which is a soft tip, and I use that for dusting things, sometimes my computer keyboard, but plenty of other jobs require a bit of dusting occasionally. I've got a fine tip brush for glue jobs that need a very much more fine point. There's some bamboo barbecue skewers, and I keep these on hand because they just come in handy for so many jobs. They've got a thin tip on one end, a fatter tip on the other. They're good for mixing resin, getting into very fine places, just whatever I might need them for. A chisel tip Sharpie. Got just a plain biro, sparkly end, pencil, a couple of other biros in case I can't find one at any point. I've got my white jelly roll, Sakura jelly roll pen. I've got a non-permanent overhead projector pen and some fine liners in varying colours. Second jar contains more sort of active tools, so cutters, files and all sorts. So we've got a couple of tools here that I use for marking paper. I've got little dotting tools. This is a silicone tip with a brush end, so good for drawing, dusting stuff away, smudging your drawings, all sorts. I've got my bead pliers, and these are great for not just beading work. They're good for scooping all sorts of things, as well as getting into small gaps if I lose anything. Another silicone tool, again for smudging your drawings or for anything else, quite handy for my polymer clay. Then I've got a selection of craft knives. I've got two here which are your standard size 11 blades. And then this teeny tiny one is actually got a swivel tip, and that helps me get into some very fine little gaps. Wire mandrels, so I can make jump rings and twist wire whenever I might need it. Some bead files, so I've got a very fine one and a slightly thicker one, and these are used for opening up the holes of beads whenever I might need them. I've then got a brilliant selection of files of all different shapes and thicknesses. I've got a square, a round, an oval, a triangle, all sorts for all sorts of jobs. And then a ton of pliers for, not pliers, tweezers for the same reason. So I've got some bent nose ones, some thicker, thinner, very pointy ones, longer ones. Whatever I might need a pair of tweezers for, if the job requires it, I've got one to suit. Those are my most used ones, so I keep them on the edge. And then finally, I've got this pot, which is a new addition because I was finding myself using these tools more at the moment than any of the others. So this pot might change over time because I will swap up the tools that are in it. But for the time being, this is going to be my quick grab pot. And I've got some paintbrushes that I use for gluing. I've got my oval file from the other pot, but I've got it to hand so that I can find it straight away. And I've got my 2 drills with the varying drill bits. So this is changed from the last video where I had these in the drawer. I've now got them in the pot because I've been using this collection of tools more and more often, and to get them from all their separate places just seemed silly, so I've put them in a pot on top of the unit. Now this tin might seem very cute, and you know, it is, but it does serve a purpose. It is my leather making supplies, and I've got all sorts in here, and I keep them all together because it just makes sense that I can grab the one tin and know that I've got everything in here rather than keep rummaging around and finding each piece separately. So I have an edge cutting tool to take the corners off of the leather, and it also doubles as a marking tool. You just change the tips out and they're in here somewhere. I have a leather edge polisher with different size grooves for different thicknesses of leather. A pair of pliers that I have adapted. They should be, and this has been adapted since my previous video, so you'll have seen these in the drawer, but what I've done is I've cut or sanded a groove down the middle to help me hold wire when I'm attaching fixings to my leather work. Got some natural shoe polish. Some bits of tracing paper because it's handy to stop the leather from being marked when I'm using the metal tools. A selection of hole punches and eyelet fixing tools, and that's another one, and that's another one, and there should be, yep, and they all work together in certain ways. Got a huge selection of eyelets, all marked up, and I just need to get another tin to put those ones into. This tin contains the accessories and the other bits and pieces for that leather marking tool. I've got leather hole punches, polishing cloth, some bails for my leather key rings. The shape that I'm using for the leather key rings, it's a cookie cutter, but I just found it the perfect shape and size. And then some offcuts of leather and some tester pieces that I've used to make sure that the eyelets fit. And finally a Stanley blade in case I need that. This is my workstation, or my very compact desk. So I have my laptop there on a movable arm so I can pull it around whenever I need to. And then I've got a little movable shelf up there, and the things on that consist of a roll of sellotape, my pot of bits and pieces, which consists of things that I use on a daily basis, not all of them for craft purposes, but I have it to hand so that I can get things quickly. I keep my ruler in here because are always in need of a ruler. I have a packet of tissues because you never know when you might need them. I've got my nail cuticle oil and hand cream because I do suffer with dry skin. My very fine, sharp scissors, and I keep these here so that they're not used by anybody else at any other time because I'm trying to keep them sharp and pointy. A marker pen, spare leads for my mechanical pencil, and my Microsoft Surface pointer. My paper holder so I can stand paper up and take notes from it. A little pot with the rubber and a pin because you never know when they might come in handy. Some sticky notes, an automatic stapler, some paper notes, and my Dymo label maker. This is the final corner with bits and pieces in, and this is a windowsill, and it contains all my photography props. So I've got a stone, I've got a bit of wood, I've got some shims to prop the table straight or any of the props straight. I've got some coasters that I use to clamp things to my desk to stop my desk from being ruined. I've got a bowl, and that's actually got some sand in it. I've got some tracing paper for various diffusing effects. I've got some little shells, and this little template is a square that I use to take my Instagram pictures with so that when I'm lining products up I can get them in a square to start with. And then I've just got another little pot with other little props, some shells and bits and pieces in there. Thank you for sticking with me until the end. I hope you found it entertaining. If you have made it this far, I hope it is something that you're interested in. Otherwise, I've just dragged you along for a very boring ride. But what I would like to say is that if there's anything that you saw within the 3 videos, I will link the other 2 in the description. But if there's anything that you saw, any piece of equipment that you'd like to know more about, or whether you would like to see in action, let me know and I will do a specific video on that. There's a couple of things that I will do anyway, and there are actually some tools that I have shown working in previous videos, so I will try and link as many of them as I can in the description or in annotations as you went through the video. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you will get an update of when my next video is available. I am currently working on it and it will be available soon.